Okay, so I had a request from someone asking if I can go a little bit more into detail about the effects of what can happen after a spiritual awakening or entering the dark night of the soul, um, to do with your ego leaving you, and how that can kind of have ramifications against the person that you are, and just kind of, I think, wanted to explore a little bit more about how that can leave you feeling in life, and also accompanying loneliness again, and insecurities and that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd give you some of my takes on what happened to me and stuff like that. And remember, guys, this stuff that I'm telling you now is nothing super great like knowledge. This is within all of us. Hence why I called the channel Truth Be With You, because the truth is in you all the time. But due to our conditioning that we receive at childhood and in school and stuff like that, it gets buried. So the truth of our own reality, our true self, the true essence of us, gets buried under conditional beliefs that make us live a life in a certain way. And anything less than living life in that certain way is deemed as failure, which again makes us feel lonely. So I know I was going to talk about the effects of ego leaving. It kind of went into loneliness, but hey, there you go. But one of the things that you have to remember about the ego leaving you is, well, let's start that again. You've got the obvious effects of that, what's going to happen. So all the conditional beliefs that are on you, they're all going to be shedded away. And as they're being shedded away, they're leaving you exposed to a world that you're unfamiliar with. So once you, in other words, the whole time you've been alive, you've been living alive through your egoic self. So therefore, everything you taste, everything you see, everything you smell, all your conversations you have, your family, the things that you like watching, your relationship, your career, has all been lived according to wanting to live up to something. So if you can try and imagine what the physical body must be going through and what the mind must be going through when suddenly you see all that for what it is, which is something that has held you back your entire life. And now you also start questioning, was that done on purpose by a system that is programmed to make us fail, in order to keep us maybe conditioned, to keep us following the same path as one another, so that we become very easy to control. But what I wanted to get around to more than that was, when the ego leaves you, it's not, I think that some of us can look at that as though the ego is a thing that leaves us. The ego is something that is made up of everything that we've ever known, that we've ever felt, tasted, all the senses. But let's keep it on the thought system. So everything that we've ever thought and everything that's we've ever felt, both feelings wise and with our emotions, that's being stripped out of us as well. So all of those thoughts, feelings, emotions, our senses are what make up the ego. The ego is not just like a single thing and that leaves you and there you are. It's all of those other things as well. So when the ego has gone, or it's shedding, you're now left in unfamiliar territory of how you deal with feelings that you might have felt before when you had the ego. So those feelings before, when you felt them. So let me try and explain this properly. It is very difficult to explain, and like I'm always saying, I'm not the best in the world at doing this stuff. However, I really enjoy it, and I know I'm getting through to some of you. So obviously, thank you for the comments. I do appreciate it. But if you took a scenario in life, let's take an obvious one. You split up with your partner. When you're living through the egoic self and you split up with your partner, you will deal with that split up based on how your ego is telling you to do it. And don't forget, your ego is everything that you've learned. So everything you've been taught and read and you've seen in movies and stuff like that. And of course, in movies and whatever else, when two people split up, we see someone breaking down crying. So our ego picks up on that and thinks, oh, that's what we must be doing. Not everyone is the same though. So you would deal with the hurt of the split up via your egoic self and the feelings that have gone into that egoic self. Now you're left with, if you split up with your partner now, not only is your ego not there to make you distract from that, also the feeling that comes up, the pain that comes up whilst you've split up with that partner or whatever situation it is that you're in, you're now dealing with that through an inexperienced feeling. You have no, what's the word I'm looking for? You have no prior experience of the feeling that the pain is creating. Because before, you would have dealt with the feeling that the pain is creating via your ego. Now you've got to try and look after that pain and that feeling via a feeling that you've never had before, so you have no experience of. I really hope that makes sense, because it's a tough one to explain, or I find it hard to explain. But I'm sure you guys can rewind a little bit and go over it, because it's a real vital part for you to understand. I'm trying to think if there's another way I can do it, another analogy, and I don't think there is. But if as I'm talking it comes, I'll digress as I usually do, and I'll go back onto it. But it's a real important thing to know, is that losing the ego is much more than losing a singular thing. It's losing your complete identity has gone, and you're now exposed to the whole world. And your first reaction to that would be fear of, where do I go now? What do I do now? See, the egoic self, because you would have had so many years living through the egoic self, there'll be a part of you that is still always going to be conditioned in to respond in a way that you think you should respond according to the ego. What happens when the ego leaves you is you start developing this wonderful way of observing your own thoughts, of observing your reactions and your perspective on life and your feelings. You become the person that is aware of those feelings and those emotions. When you're living through the person that becomes aware of that, that doesn't mean that you're not going to sometimes default back to all that you know, which is how you react through the egoic self. Trouble is with that, you react in that way, you're the awareness of that, you become aware of how you're feeling, you're aware that it's through the egoic self, so it gets dismissed. You don't actually dismiss it, it just gets dismissed. Because that's what happens in a dark night of the soul. That's what the silence is for, that's what the loneliness is for you to feel this stuff, and it kind of just starts leaving you if you allow it and don't attach to it. But what happens is you're now left, after you've dismissed this stuff and your ego's gone, you're now left as the empty shell trying to deal with a situation that you have no prior experience of. I'm sure that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. But I guess we'll find out in the comments after I load this one up. If it doesn't make sense, guys, let me know, because I will try and write notes down and try and get it across more clearer. And that's not me doubting you guys whether you can understand, by the way. That's doubting my delivery. I have no doubt that you guys can probably pick up what I'm saying. But like I say, this is how we can default back to our egoic self. That's a default of mine. I will always go back to that part of me that for years, through my conditioning, having dyslexia in the 1970s, and well, I've still got it now, but having it in the 70s when it wasn't recognised, I was deemed as thick. And so the whole way through my schooling, I was never going to be much. Now that would have left a scar in me. Whether that scar, I feel like it affected me throughout my whole life, is neither here nor there now. But I think it's part of the reason I would never have done these videos before, because I would have been seen as a failure. So even as I'm talking to you now and I'm doing this delivery now, there's this part back here, right back here, which is the old egoic self, which still kicks in of, you're not being very clear here, Tobe. you're not explaining this very well. But I'm only saying that because I want you guys to see how it's normal for you to respond according to your old egoic beliefs. It's normal for you to feel anger, to feel rage or jealousy and this, that and the other. You're going to feel those things because just because the ego has left you doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it has taken with it all of your responses of how you used to deal with that. So now it's left you, your responses to certain situations are still going to be the same as they ever was. But like I say, the beauty is now you become aware of those responses. You can breathe into it, you can relax. And oftentimes, as I do now, I laugh at myself. I laugh at myself because our minds are so weird and wonderful. And if you look at them in that way, that they are just this weird thing that we kind of associate as being in here. It's actually not. It's actually just, we don't actually know where it is, but we kind of think that we think it in our head. But it's this weird and wonderful thing that is just always there. It's ever present. And when we master that, that's when you have a real control on your life. That's when it starts becoming really good, because you become the navigator of this body and your thoughts. You become the navigator of where it is that you want to go in life. Now, if someone had said to me that when I get older, I'm going to be leaving videos on YouTube that people are actually going to be taking something from it, there's no way I would have believed that. But once the ego goes and you enter the space of that loneliness that we spoke about, you enter that space of the loneliness, if you allow it, you release. It's like you don't get nothing in. It's like you release a lot of knowledge that you always knew that was buried in you. And that's where I feel I'm at. Sometimes I hear myself and I'm like, did I really just say that? Did I string those few sentences together that sounded really awesome? It kind of surprises me. But now as I'm approaching, I would say, the final stages of Dark Night of the Soul. If not, I'm out of it, because I don't really think about it that much anymore. I study it, but I don't really think about it in terms of me being in it, because I'm very comfortable where I am. And that's where you guys are headed, by the way. If you allow it, and once you learn to detach from once you learn to detach from attaching to your thoughts that come in your head, and just sometimes just letting things be. So if you feel down, just feel down. You don't have that. What that means is, don't think about why you're down. Just be down. Just know that you're a body, a thing. You're a that was just created out of the Big Bang. Just know that. And so that the feelings and the thoughts and the emotions that are running through your body are also just a part of the universe doing what the universe will do, which is whatever it wants to do. And once you kind of know that, you really relax with your feelings and your thoughts. And sometimes, I know for me, I've said before, when I feel down, sometimes I can enjoy that feeling now, because I know I'm going to come out of it. I know I'm going to be okay. It's just an hour, 3 hours, 2 days. Never more than 2 days, but 2 days. I know it's going to come back out. How about this one? How about this for you? When you're feeling down about stuff, we tend to, as human beings, attach to the down feeling. So we want to analyse why we're feeling down. We want to know what it was that created us to feel down. And also on top of that, we feel like we've failed because we are down. There is no failure to being down. There's no blueprint for being a human being. We go up and we go down. That's all there is. And feelings, they do what they want to do. To a degree, in one essence, you have no control over your feelings. In the other, you completely do. And I know that's a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but it really is true. So a lot of what you might feel is just going to be coming about because of life circumstances outside you, and it's kind of just sending you to where you need to be. The other part is that you can now control how you react to that down feeling. And because you can control that, your reaction to it, it kind of means that you are in control of your feelings. But anyway, I digress slightly there. So if you imagine that when you go down, and remember a time when you're down, if you're feeling down now, it's a good chance to explore that. So while you're down, you're holding on to it. You're thinking about it. Why am I down? What's down here? When am I going to come out of this? When are things going to get better? Why did this happen to me? Why did this dark night of the soul happen to me? But when you're up, do you sit there when you're up and think, oh, this is awesome. Why am I up? Why am I feeling so good today? What did I do that made me feel grand? We tend to not do that. I think I might have covered this in another video, but if I have, well, it's good for some of the newer subscribers who might not have seen that. But what we tend to do when we go up is think, well, we better enjoy this while it lasts. Better make the most of this. Oh, that's unusual. I'm feeling good today. That doesn't normally happen to me. We almost approach our good moods with negativity. So it kind of brings us down a lot faster. But imagine if we was just to think, okay, we're just this thing that floats in the middle. Some days we go down, other days we go up. But generally, we'll always find our way back. And the only reason we don't find our way back to that middle ground is because we hold on to the negative thoughts. We hold on to the down feelings and analyse them. The up feelings, we don't. Maybe we should start trying to hold on to them and analyse them, spend more time with that. And when you go down, you just think, okay, I'm down. I just need to rest. That's a lot of what it is with this stuff, guys. It's just rest, doing nothing, feeling no guilt when you just sit and do absolutely zero. I'm aware some of you have families and probably kids running around and it's a little bit difficult, but I'm sure you can find little bits of time where you could lock yourself away in a room and do nothing and feel no guilt about that. It's another thing with the conditioning now. We've been programmed to think that we must always be kept busy because that's to do anything less than being busy means we're lazy. No, it doesn't. I don't see lions running around when the sun's out. They think, oh, I must dig a hole here, or in some other stupid thing. They just sit in the sun. Cats, they do the same. Dogs, they do the same. And then when it's time to play, they play. We need to start taking that approach. I know it's a tiny bit different because we have lives, but a lot of our lives that are in place now are in place through the conditioning and through the egoic self. So you can, once you start allowing things to happen, you can slowly unravel your life. And you start seeing things very clearly and you start looking at things in a different manner. So if there's something in your life that's bothering you, once you come through the dark night of the soul or during the dark night of the soul, you'll start noticing how else you can look at this. You'll start seeing your own patterns of everything that ever happens, everything that ever goes wrong. You tend to deal with it in a certain way. And up until this point, it's not worked. So now, with the dark night of the soul, or feeling down, you naturally approach it from another angle. But that is not something that you think of approaching from another angle. Most of the time when these things happen now, you'll find this way of just staying calm with it. It's okay because your physical reaction, say like a fast heartbeat, deep breathing, stress and, oh my God, I'm doing this, is a scar that's been left behind from the ego having left you. And that's all it is. Other than that, you are just an empty vessel waiting to be full up with all the good stuff. Once you allow it, you don't have to find it. You don't have to do much. Most of the time, just sit with it. Find space to sit in silence. Don't scroll. Don't eat. Don't run a bath. Don't have sex. Don't do anything whatsoever. Just sit. And when those thoughts come up, when the dark night of the soul thoughts come up, when the spiritual awakening thoughts come up, when depression starts to kick in, when the anxiety of needing to do something else kicks in, when thoughts of work come up, or your relationship problems, or any other kind of thing that's going on in your life, when they come up, just know they're doing what they need to be doing. And you don't need to do anything about it other than just sit and let the thoughts do what they're going to do. Because if you don't attach to them, they will literally just float past. And the best way to get this stuff floating past, guys, focusing in on your body and just feeling everything. Just feeling, like I've said in the last video, feel the wind in your hands. Become present in that moment. Your ego is going to kind of fire back in when you try and be present and say, that's a load of old shit. How can you be present? I've got all these things to worry about. You'll just have to learn how to just breathe into that and go, oh, I can see that happening to me. I can see what you're doing. I can see the ego trying to come back up and control me and make me go and eat junk food, or I should be busy, or I'm a lazy failure because I'm sitting here doing nothing. No, just sit and do nothing. It's the biggest and best remedy you could probably do. Guys, 21 minutes in. Thank you so much to everyone for subscribing, all your wonderful comments. A few of you have asked me to do videos. I will do them. Yeah, I will do them. I was going to say something else. Oh, and welcome to all the new subscribers. Thank you for coming along. So this channel is really developing into something that was more than my expectations ever were for it. So you have no idea how grateful I am to you guys for being there, and your comments are awesome, by the way. So I look forward to getting to know you all a bit better. I hope that video was interesting to you. Please leave again your comments about it. If you want to criticize, that's cool. And if you want to tell me it's great, of course, that's always good. If I waffle too much, let me know. You guide me as well as I'm trying to guide you, for want of a better word. Anyway, guys, enjoy the rest of the weekend. And bit overcast here today. I'm always going to tell you about the weather, remember. A little bit overcast here today, but it's very warm, which is lovely. I like that. Anyway, guys, have a great rest of the day, and thank you so much.